Just ahead of the ABC TV debate between Kamala Harris and the disgraced former president, I thought I would talk strategy for Kamala Harris, stopping short of her actually flying me to Washington and doing debate prep with her. It is an area that I've worked in for many, many years. I've prepped politicians for debates. I've worked as a stand-in so that they have someone to, volley with. I've moderated. And I've done media training for politicians in these environments. I've spent a lot of time in the TV debate studio in a previous life. And so it's something that's very dear to my heart. It's something that's very important that you understand is not a natural environment. There is nothing normal about standing at a podium, being given a certain amount of time to talk, not having any audience, so there's no feedback. You don't get a sense if you're doing well or not. You're very much isolated. And just by nature of the design of these things, you really have to be on top form. And we saw what happens if you're not on top form with Joe Biden in the debate with Donald Trump, where he just wasn't able to do his best. The next day, he was able to do his best, but he wasn't in that very false environment of the television studio. David Muir and Lindsay Davis will moderate. Trump and Harris will each have 2 minutes to answer questions and 2 minutes to give rebuttals. They'll also be granted 1 additional minute to clarify or follow up anything. Microphones will be muted when it's not a candidate's turn to speak, just like the previous debate, and the candidates will not give opening statements. Trump has won a coin flip to determine the order of the closing statements and podium placement, while Trump, who selected the statement order, will give the final closing statement, which will be 2 minutes long. Well, you can guess why he chose to have the closing statement, because he wants to leave his mark. He wants to be the last person to speak. And that's annoying, isn't it? Because he's going to really milk that for what it's worth. Now, you may know that my opinion in the months leading up to this was that Harris, and indeed Biden before her, should not debate Donald Trump. To me, he is an insurrectionist, he is a fraudster, he is a rapist, he is a white supremacist, he is also a convicted felon. And for those reasons, and there are plenty of others, he should not be platformed or legitimized by having somebody of the standard of the vice president or president standing next to him on a debate stage in a shiny studio. To me, that platforms Donald Trump in a way that legitimizes his candidacy, and I believe he is an illegitimate candidate. I don't believe that his name should be on the ballot. I'm not saying that the Republicans can't have another candidate. I just don't believe that Donald Trump, considering all the crimes that he's committed, not to mention espionage, the stealing of classified documents, not giving them back when he said he had, and sharing them. I mean, if it wasn't for the delay in these legal cases, then they might say, well, you are not able to run. But unfortunately, felons, it seems, can't vote, but they can run for president. So that's who we're dealing with. If I had to give one piece of advice, I would start every sentence with the phrase, "That's a lie." And I've mentioned this previously, and it's very, very powerful use of language, because it's just 3 words. You can say them very quickly, and they work off the back of everything Trump is going to say, because he cannot tell the truth. Everything Donald Trump says is a lie. It's false, it's propaganda, it's over-dramatized, or it is, selective memory. And so if she starts her sections with, "That's a lie," it's so short that he can't interrupt. And if you think that muted mics is going to stop Donald Trump interrupting, then you're living on a different planet. He has a personality disorder. He is a narcissist. He believes that he has the right to say whatever he wants whenever he wants. He does not follow the protocols and the rules. He has no boundaries. And just because that little light on the desk is not lit is not going to stop him steamrolling over anything that Kamala Harris says, which will put her off, because just because the mic is muted, she will still hear him. The people at home might not be able to hear him, but she will. And if she is not trained in the art of focusing on the camera and ignoring this creature to her right, then she will unfortunately look like she's being tripped up by him. And that is his intention. I mean, a few days out, he's already panicking clearly about this. He knows that she's a prosecutor. He knows that she held Brett Kavanaugh to account. He knows that she is very good at this. And so he is worried. And he was furious that Joe Biden stepped aside to make room for Kamala Harris. And so with that, he's saying she isn't allowed to stand on a box. She's not allowed to wear lifts. Well, I think he wears lifts. But she's small. She's 5 foot and he's over 6 foot. And so even that will look like a disparity. And he likes to use all of these things to present this sense of strength, this strongman style. And we saw that with Hillary Clinton back in 2016, where they were allowed to walk around holding mics. And he literally came up behind her trying to intimidate her while she was talking. It was very, very odd. So this is going to be a very controlled environment, 2 podiums, but that will not stop Donald Trump from saying some of the worst things. I mean, he will literally stop at nothing. He'll call her a communist. He'll call her a Marxist. He'll call her a socialist. He'll say she's done nothing on the border. He'll call her the border czar and say, you've had 4 years. Why didn't you do anything? The border's in the worst state. I left it in a great state. None of that is true, but it doesn't matter. Donald Trump is going to say it anyway. And Kamala Harris, I hope, right now, is rehearsing to be able to deal with that. Because even being a career prosecutor does not give you the experience in this environment. She's not in charge here. She is just one of many, i.e. the moderators, the TV director, the lighting designer. Everybody has had a hand in running this show. And so she has to know how to play to the audience at home and not be intimidated by him. And this is advice that I can also apply to the rallies. I wish that she made more use of the camera when she's doing rallies and thought less about the thousands of people in the room, because actually to look like you're in control is being able to communicate directly with the millions of people at home. So provided she starts each sentence with "that's a lie," she is in a better position to then continue with what she has to say, because that repositions the argument. It instead of trying to one-up him, or if he says you didn't do anything on the border, you let more people in. If she says, oh, well, no, actually 40,000 people, numbers, it doesn't work. You have to start with "that's a lie" and then present your truth. And so Donald Trump is looking forward to this because the TV studio is his domain. Remember, he's fake. He's not a real person. He's made for TV. He acted the role of the president for 4 years. He never actually did the job. And so the TV studio with the shiny floor and the lights and the whole Dancing with the Stars theme is Donald Trump's favorite place. And he can really relax in that kind of environment. And, he has a tunnel vision attitude to this type of an event. He also doesn't have normal emotions like you or I or Kamala Harris. So I'm just hoping that in her rehearsal prep that Kamala Harris is prepared for the very worst version of Donald Trump. He is not going to hold back because the stakes are so high for him. This might be the only TV debate between now and the election, and he has to be seen as the winner in his eyes. He might have lost the previous election, but he doesn't want to lose the TV debate. And he thinks he won the debate with Joe Biden, and he wants to win this one as well. Also, let's not forget that he's a misogynist and a racist, and she is a female of color, and so he has a vendetta against her already. And so all of these things piled up. I'd also like to recommend that she focuses on just 3 aspects of Democrat policy. Rather than, going through the whole list of achievements, I would like her to focus just on reproductive rights, on immigration, and on the economy, including inflation. Just those things, because otherwise it becomes too broad and difficult to follow. Those are the things that Donald Trump is going to be focusing on. without women's reproductive health. That is something he tends not to talk about. He's been flip-flopping on that recently. So I really hope that Kamala Harris sticks to these three issues, starting with reproductive rights, because that ultimately, after the reversal of Roe, under Donald Trump, which he takes ownership for, is, I believe, the most important fundamental issue for this election, coupled with the economy. The fact that it feels like the cost of things is still too high since the COVID pandemic affected supply chains. It turns out retailers have been price gouging. We saw this with Kroger recently. And so they've been making massive profits and not bringing prices back to where they were pre-pandemic. So there's that to talk about. And finally, immigration. And this is a really important subject. In fact, it's going to be Donald Trump's number one issue that he runs on. You know, he plans to have mass deportations and to close the border. Now, you can't really argue with that from a policy position. And a lot of people will be like, yeah, well, she needs to remind him that you can't close the border. It's not actually possible to close the border. And number two, you can't do mass deportations. It's illegal. And so these things that he says are, again, propaganda. She needs to be the bastion of truth. She needs to be the one who knows her stuff, comes in and says, you can't do that. She also needs to remind him that most of the policies that were, in place under Donald Trump, aside from families in cages and splitting children from their parents, is actually underway currently in the Biden administration. And the process hasn't really changed. She's not the border czar, but she was given responsibility for looking at how to reform immigration to speed up the process. So she can certainly talk about the courts and how we need more judges and we actually need to speed up the process so that people's asylum claims can be dealt with faster. So that's really my advice. She needs to hold her own, and I think that she will succeed. Just finally, on the points of policy, I just want to point out that currently I do not see the policy platform listed on Kamala Harris's website, on kamalaharris.com. It's not on the Democrats' website. That currently is the 2020 stuff. It's not on the Act Blue website, whereas Donald Trump has very clear 20 points of policy on his websites. And so it's very important to me that when people watch Kamala Harris on this show, they're then able to go to her website and see exactly what she stands for. And I hope that her campaign are able to upload that information before the debate on Tuesday. I'm Anthony Davis. You can catch me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesday co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with MeidasTouch.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.